Hi everyone, Matt Woodford. So I work in the Dynamics BizApps business group under Marie Avery, and someone was just asking me what it is I do now. I'm responsible for the customer engagement applications, and what the business group does really is make sure that the organization's running well, and actually we're accountable for helping to land any changes as well, and of course passing your voice of the field and the partner community back to our corporate colleagues, and then landing the changes that they come up with. And so when I was asked to talk today about kind of our priorities, I thought instead it might be smart to take some time to reflect on how everyone in the room is probably feeling. And I was just having a conversation a moment ago with somebody along the lines of, we may or may not disagree with the changes, they're probably all good, but it's just the amount of change and it's the speed of change, and can we just pause for a minute because there's a point where it just becomes too much. And so I thought it's a good opportunity for me to come and talk to you and share my perspective on that. And so I want to start actually by just reflecting for a moment and looking back on all of these changes that we've made, because I actually think, there's been a great outcome from a lot of those changes. Admittedly, that they've not all been perfect, and where we've got anything wrong, I'd like to think we've been improving it and iterating on it. And I want to look ahead as well at some of the opportunity that we see coming our way based on the investments we're making at Microsoft. And I just want to share my own personal perspective on these changes. And so this is not the kind of the corporate presentation on the licensing detail. This is rather a reflection on the level of change that we're all going through. And obviously, from my perspective, I'm very much a kind of a glass half full person. And I hope I can convince you this morning that the changes that we're making are actually, in the round, really good for all of us here. Okay? And so I just want to start by reflecting on the results. And I took this particular slide around our momentum because this comes from a slide pack that I can actually share with all of you and you can use in market. So within this business applications momentum deck are all of the stats that are publicly available and a little FAQ slide on what we can and can't share with anybody. And I mean, there are some simple things here like 45% year over year revenue growth with Dynamics 365. And we're talking about markets that are in the teens, low to mid-teens. So we're massively outperforming the market at the moment. Triple-digit growth in F&O deployed customers, which is amazing. Power Platform revenue grew triple digits, 350% growth in production apps. And one of the things that I struggled with, formerly in a sales role, was, of course, where are we in terms of our ISV ecosystem? We've nearly got 5,000 apps in AppSource now today that would be classed as ISV, and 9,000 when we include services. So, when I joined Microsoft about 5 years ago, Dynamics was part of kind of an incubation area of the business within SMS&P, for those of you that used to work with that part of the organization. And today, Dynamics gets mentioned every single time we have quarterly earnings, end-of-year reports by Satya, by Amy Hood. It's really something that for us is a huge priority, and it's reflected in the fact that now we're a $2.5 billion business, and over 50% of that's cloud. And when it comes to that cloud mix, the UK is actually miles ahead of every other market. So it's something that, I really appreciate everyone's work on here in the room. But, suffice to say, we're doing really well, and I think we're doing really well together. And the analysts think the same thing. So I spent 5 years at Gartner before I joined Microsoft, and I saw Microsoft in a lot of these quadrants and decided it'd be a good place to come and work. But they haven't always been that nice to us when it comes to business applications. We've had to earn that. And when I reflect on what's come out over the last couple of years, whether it's been the Gartner quadrant or the Forrester wave, especially things like sales, service, we're very much a leader. We've been firmly in the top right-hand side of the quadrant. And when it comes to what we're doing around the platform, we're not just top right. We're actually like clear daylight between us and anyone else. So light years ahead. I think that's phenomenal. And there's some comments down here at the bottom around new innovations we're making in things like AI and mixed reality. And these are all things that now we're productizing in a way that everyone in this room can capitalize on the opportunity. And I think that's fantastic. I signed up to be the CRM guy, and now I'm somebody that's got a portfolio of applications that really address a whole range of problems that I hadn't expected. And the press are saying great things as well. And I think these are the things that really affect all of us when we go out and talk to our customers every day about a new project, a new opportunity, something else that's become available that we think they should have a look at. And so there's huge momentum. So forgetting our priorities and our growth rates, the reality is that we are getting great feedback. And I think we can all be hugely proud of this. And of course, yes, it is going to involve some changes. But I think these changes are going in the right direction. And customers seem to think so too. And this is the latest set of logos from Q4. This was actually a global slide, but I was really chuffed to see every time more and more UK stories, pound for pound, than any other subsidiary or area that I see at Microsoft. Examples here, we've got Capita, Microsoft relationship sales. Not an easy context in terms of obviously fierce competition in an organization like this, and yet they've decided to try one of our newer solutions, let's say. Marston's another one that we've spoken about a few times, but one of the first using our customer insights, offering our customer data platform. And so I think it's great that we see these customers, being promoted globally as examples of best practice, and they're all coming from the work that you're doing here in the UK market. And I think there's, why is that? Why are they choosing us? Well, we've always had this view of, this three cloud story, and people don't buy CRM or ERP from Microsoft. They buy into Microsoft capabilities, and then we happen to be a good choice to then do some of these business process projects with. But I think we've taken that to a completely new place now with this concept of the digital feedback loop. And when I first saw this, I guess a couple of years ago when James Phillips came out with the idea that actually by combining ERP and CRM and this underlying graph of data that we have with Bing, with LinkedIn, with Office, etc., that really we could build this continuous feedback loop, of information for our customers across their people internally, across their customers, across their products now, where they might be embedding sensors, and even all the way through their operations as they deliver their services and products to customers. And I genuinely perceive this going down really well. Last week, I actually had a customer exec sort me out and asked if I'd be so kind as to just take a few minutes to talk them through what we're doing as it relates to their organization and facilities management. And I just took half an hour to run them through that story and an example of a similar organization overseas that are working with us on a connected field service scenario. And this guy, multi-billion-dollar organization, he said, "You're years and years ahead of what we're doing here. This is unbelievable." And so, of course, they're excited to come to Future Decoded and hear one of our partners presenting about what they're doing in this space. And of course, they'd love to have a meeting afterwards. And I just think, maybe I need to go back into sales. I think it's a good time for all of us to be in this market. I think, yes, it's a lot of change. Yes, it's quite painful at times. I appreciate you taking some time today to come and kind of process some of these changes. But my experience day to day is, as well as the pain of the change, there's this huge reward in terms of the customer momentum, the feedback that we're getting. And so, I guess, when we were speaking earlier about this level of change and what we've now become comfortable with, I kind of see this as being the immediate comfort zone. We've got our heads around this idea of a story where ERP and CRM come together, and we've abstracted this platform layer where people can integrate all of their data and start to do clever things with it. And we're not just talking about reporting now and process automation, but we want to take this to another level. And so this is what I want to point to in terms of the opportunity that we face with our next steps. This idea that it's all built on Azure and you can do smart things with it is a wonderful idea, but it's only really now that we're productizing all of these offerings around sales insights, market insights, customer service insights, customer insights to aggregate the data and do smart things with it. And on top of that, we've layered mixed reality applications. I just don't see any other place where these opportunities would be available to us. And I have conversations about these things with customers every single day. And I know for many of us at the moment, these kind of scenarios and solutions are going to feel like they're a long way off, or maybe they don't apply to your customer today, or there will be some reason why it doesn't feel quite as tangible. But for me, I'm seeing people use these things, buy these things. I'm seeing us getting into conversations with organizations that have been in bed with competitors for the last decade, and we've never had any opportunity to come to the table for a discussion. But now with something like remote assistance, we've got an organization that is trying to figure out how they can do maintenance on an oil rig, way off the coast of Finland or somewhere like that. and we're the only people that have got a solution for them that seems to fit into their vision around business applications and process innovation. So I'd encourage everyone to just reflect on the level of opportunity that comes with the change. And I thought it'd be smart to take a moment to just, recap on these. So sales insights, just having a look here at the kind of experience for a manager that's trying to better coach their team and now doing it with all of that data that we've always promised. And as someone that uses these tools internally and someone that's, been looking forward to this for a few years now, I am hugely excited that it's in market. And I know there are people in this room who are going to be the first to deliver all of these solutions, and they're going to be the ones with the case studies, and I'll be funding them. And I really can't wait. But these case studies and these scenarios and these stories with you are happening now. This isn't something that's happening to us next year. It's happening right now. These are case studies that are in progress. Customer service insights, virtual agents. I couldn't have really foreseen that we would be stripping headers from cases, thousands if not millions of cases from customer contact centers every month, and helping them really see ahead, around the corner in terms of how their operations are changing and where they need to prioritize to drive impact and manage their customer service operation. And so it's not just that, it's then helping them with things like, well, how can we then automate some of these emerging topics that are coming through before they become too painful for us to manage, and can we deploy something like a bot with no need to do any coding whatsoever, that the product or service owner, somebody even like me that understands the product that's being used, can literally put together a conversation flow and deploy it without having to go through a very long process with their IT organization. And of course, we've also got this innovation coming through in the ERP portfolio with fraud protection. And I expect you'll see much more of this stuff as we build some momentum around things like e-commerce. We've already touched on mixed reality. I have to say this is something I've been finding quite exciting. I've been doing some research around new market development anyway over the last six months or so as part of a project outside of work. And the idea that we can change the way people learn, hands-on, day to day on their job. And you look at some of the case studies here with guides, for example, and people say, I got a job, finally got a job that I'm really proud of at an organization where I really want to see if I can make a career out of this. And of course, you arrive there day one, there's nothing worse than then having to tap colleagues on the shoulder and can you explain to me and how do I do, can you walk me through the scenarios? And so to have people being able to do things like assemble custom trucks or assembling things for jet propulsion labs without having to refer back to an instruction manual or without having to distract an expert. That's quite powerful, really. I think, there's this huge shortage of skills in manufacturing, and there's a wave of people retiring as younger folks just don't want to do manual work anymore, and we're now solving a problem like that with guides. Layout, spatial layout, remote assistance, I've already mentioned, in terms of something that now is deeply integrated with our own field service solution, to be able to get something fixed first time by dialing someone in or multiple people in, to not just give advice, but to overlay instructions in your field of view, and you can get on and do that work either with two hands using HoloLens, or just one hand free and you've got your iPhone, your Android phone or your tablet. It's hugely powerful. And if you haven't met customers or had conversations about these things yet, then by all means, I'd love to have a chat with you about these opportunities for your organization and the way we're thinking about them along with some of our customers. And so then I said I'd talk about my perspective on the changes here today. And I think one of the things that may be hard for you to see from outside is what we're really focused on internally. And for me at the moment, more than ever, it's around the customers, what the customers are trying to achieve and the outcomes that they're after. And so I'd encourage you to just remember that we're human too, and we're going on our own journey trying to change the way that we sell and the level of understanding we have of our customers and their problems, and trying to be the best partner we can for you. And so when I look this year at these kind of sales plays, which tends to be what the corporate product marketing group put together as how we go to market, initially on the surface, I looked at the top and I thought, this is a list of products that we take to market and we sell, and this feels very much like what we've always done at Microsoft. And then I took a little bit more time to look at the scenarios underneath and study what those scenarios meant, and how it is that we think we can segment customers and focus on them around these scenarios like increasing customer lifetime value or increasing revenue per seller or making insight-driven decisions. And these are actually things that we now have very discrete solutions to address. And we really want to address them not just horizontally, but we want our organization, every seller, every partner, I'm sure you already do, but we're still on the journey of understanding each of these use cases within every single one of our priority industries so that we can go and have a meaningful conversation, and by that I mean ask some smart questions about the problems they're trying to solve in a way that's relevant to them and their industry. And 5 years in, I've never seen this from us before. I actually think it's a phenomenal change, and I'm really keen to back it and see it go through this year and improve it and build on it and do more in the years to come. And so when we think about all of these licensing changes, there are cynical ways of looking at them. And there's another way, which is, we've gone to talk to customers and the answer was a plan. What was the question? And it didn't really matter what the question was. We were always prescribing the same medicine. And so I could sit in my office and take a look at all of our customers and wonder, how could we add more value to these customers? I just see a sea of plans with no differentiation between them. And actually, these customers all have their discrete problems. They're all trying to solve for specific business outcomes. And how can we help them do that if we're not in a position to then assemble an appropriate solution with you to meet those needs? And so I look at it this way. This isn't the officially advocated way. I took my personal time to build this so we can have this chat today. But that's the lens that I look at this through. I see we've had a phenomenal amount of change, but I see that change has paid off, and I hope for all of you. But in aggregate, definitely the results have been there for the company and the channel. I think about the opportunity ahead, and I just see this huge level of investment in R&D, all of these new solutions around AI, where it's actually really true that we're building AI-based products and solutions that even the smallest customer can take advantage of, because we've taken the initiative to train a model and build something and productize it that they can leverage in their business. And so obviously with these opportunities, if we really want to understand our customers and focus on the problems that they're trying to solve and get better at understanding those problems and better at having those conversations, we need to be a little bit smarter about how we pull together a solution for them. So that's my perspective. And we're equipping sales to be able to do some of these things. This is an internal slide. I just wanted to give you a feel, as well as a new sales process that we're trying to build ourselves to help customers drive digital transformation. And I'd say we've done a good job of our own digital transformation, and we've got some credibility to help them, and certainly they believe that. We're actually trying to equip people with scenarios by industry. So here you can see health, manufacturing, FS, government, media, comms, retail, automotive. For each of these, we've got a variety of industry-specific scenarios, which of course will then involve assembling a solution behind them, but it's in the customer's language. And for the sales team, and of course I'm sure you'll benefit from this as well, we're then putting together all of the things that I believe they need to be able to go and open a conversation, to have a meaningful conversation, to ask the right questions, and that might be starting with an industry-specific video about the problems that we know they're trying to address and how it is that some of our other customers have solved these problems. So give us 15 minutes to have a conversation with you about these examples. Case studies, and of course, yes, some infographics and bits like that you can use on social, because people are selling in a more modern way now. But, ebooks, all by industry, by scenario. And this is actually a huge investment. And, we come from a place of being the universal global platform that doesn't get into this level of detail. And I think this is a great change for everyone, that we can now start trying to have these conversations in this way to set you up for your projects with the right customers on the right issues. And that's really all I have to say about this, but you get a sense, I really am glass half full. I'm a bit more than half full on this one. Of course, the devil's in the detail, but I've studied the detail myself. I'm sure we'll all be on this journey together, over the coming months and years. I'm always available to talk about these things, ideally, through your partner contacts, rather than in isolation, because I can't scale to absolutely everything for the UK. But I think, the investments are good. I see them going in the right direction. I really empathize that it's hard to make the changes. I'm doing them as well.